today, and I don't know what's submitted to this point.
Well, we don't have anything. I
Yeah.
think that's the issue. You were actually on the agenda 2 months ago for not having anything submitted.
So he's still not in compliance.
Correct. The commission gave him an additional 30 days, and last month he was supposed to appear to kind of update you on what he had done, which we still don't have anything.
Yeah. So he's here today to explain that, but that's where we stand, and that's why he was brought in to for disciplinary hearing because of not being able to talk to the commission last time we were here for round 2 with him originally.
Chief? You would just for the record.
Good morning, Chief William Reeves for the Henry Police Department. As the investigator informed you, he was sort of in a dismay when he was able to come down where we're in the old city hall, but in the process of moving into a new city hall. Of course, as he also directed y'all, we have changed administrations drastically, the major change of administration. They put a hold on the new city hall, so we had to move everything back to the old city hall. On the Acadius version, our clerk has Acadius. From my understanding from her, she just cannot submit anything. She can't do anything with it. But we do have Acadius in Henry, the way I understand it from her. Of course, I can't get into that access. I have full Acadius access in Colorado, but I do not in here at all. Since then, I don't know who on the committee, the prior meeting suggested I get with Chief Fry, or excuse me, Sheriff Fry of the Henry County Sheriff's Office and set up training. Sheriff Fry and I has got together. I've been working with his lieutenant over training. Of course, his lieutenant is also an SRO lieutenant, so it's been back and forth a lot. But got with him, we're going to try to, I've implemented that we're trying to do not only the academy, but they do the in-service 40 hours also. Implement my people with him. In the process of Hollow Rock, one of my officers is in service. Myself and another officer will finish in-service training for this year tonight.
This is Commissioner Green, the record. So we don't have a pre-employment package for Henry.
Correct.
So Chief, I hate to ask you this, but you may have to step down from being the chief of Henry if you can't get your paperwork in.
We've submitted the paperwork a couple of times and there's been issues in it. I don't quite know all the issues in the paperwork of the application that we did submit.
Yeah, he had been emailing with our staff and we haven't heard from him since January. And if he would just email us the records, we'd be happy to put them in and bring them into compliance. We can figure out the Acadius access stuff later. We just need documents. And we do have an Acadius class coming up in Collierville, which is not too far from his neck of the woods.
Chief, I'm going to make a motion to give you 30 more days to get this straightened out.
Yes, sir.
But at the end of 30 days, you may have to step down from Henry County, the city of Henry.
I understand.
If they can't get your paperwork in and meet the requirements, you can't continue to work there. So that's going to be my motion, is to put it off for 30 days.
Commissioner Wright, I'll second it. And you hear the staff here is willing to help you do that if you even email it to them. If you can't get it in,
I can email it, that application to them again.
we want you to be in compliance. That's the end goal of all of this, is not have you here and have you in compliance. So I'll say.
Would you guys want it brought back before the informal subcommittee next month or the full commission?
The commission.
When is that Acadius class again?
June, it's like the third week of June, 24th, 25th, 26th on there.
Since about emailing the stuff in before June. So 30 days. Next week.
I'd like for you to also consider attending a Acadius class. I know you have people that can do this for you or that may have access. You may not have full access to Acadius, but you need to know, as any chief or any sheriff will tell you, that they are directly responsible for what happens at their agency. So you need to carve out the 2 or 3 days to attend this class and to learn about the processes at post to make sure that you're not back here again. I think that's a
Correct.
fair statement.
And you talk about, the class in Collierville, correct? Yeah, I agree.
And that class is open to anybody, so the other city employee that has access.
Just what I'd like to do, in Henry, is he said, we have one officer that's working 126 hours a week, which would be considered full-time. I'd like to take that officer with me, and maybe the clerk that's been doing Acadius before, but never been to class, to go to Acadius class.
Bring as many people as you want, see, we're happy to host it.
Thank you.
We have a motion to basically set this off to the May agenda, 30 days. We have a proper second. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Johnson City Police Department, Cali Elizabeth Young. Ms. Young was submitted for decertification due resigning in lieu of termination. Do we have a representative from the Johnson City Police Department here? Sir, if you would, step to the podium, and
Commissioner Green, I need to use myself.
Commissioner Green will be recusing himself. Sir, if you would, identify yourself, tell us who you are, what you do at the department, and then tell us why the Johnson City Police Department is seeking decertification.
I am Lieutenant David Hilton. I am Lieutenant in Internal Affairs, Police Department. Back in September of last year, a complaint came into the chief's office. The complainant had suspicions that Officer Cali Young had utilized a police database in order to find her information. The complainant was also contacted by Officer Young on Facebook Messenger. After she unknowingly dated Officer Young's boyfriend, the complainant felt that Officer Young knew too much information about her because her social media profile does not have her ex-husband's profile linked to it. And she said Officer Young made a comment about her husband reading the messages. During this investigation, I obtained audit reports from the Integrated Criminal Justice Portal and Watson. Watson is the software that the police department uses for reporting purposes. It utilizes NCIC. The Integrated Criminal Justice Portal utilizes data from the Department of Safety, Department of Revenue, Department of Correction, Board of Probation, Bureau, and TBI to produce responses to the user. I did discover that Officer Young searched for the complainant's name in the Criminal Justice Portal on July 16th of last year and obtained her driver's license number, date of birth, and social security number, and her address. Officer Young was working at the time the query was made. Officer Young did not query the complainant's name or any other information in Watson. I did note that Officer Young searched the Criminal Justice Portal approximately 10 minutes later for another female's name and tag number. Female's named Stacy Massey. And during an interview with Officer Young, she notified me that Stacy Massey is another female that was involved with her boyfriend. Following the interview with Officer Young, I discovered that she queried the tag number of Stacy Massey on March 29th of last year and June 30th of last year. I discovered she queried Ms. Massey's name in Watson, which utilizes NCIC, and Officer Young searched 19 different dates of birth for Ms. Massey until she found the correct date of birth on June the 30th of last year. And these queries were done both when she was on duty and off duty. And based on the NCIC and Criminal Justice Portal rules, notifications were made to both entities regarding the misuse of the database, and Officer Young's access to both accounts were suspended. And the FBI is the determining authority to restore her access to the NCIC. And her conduct led to sanctions being placed against the Johnson City Police Department by the FBI CJIS. Officer Young violated General Order 300.08, which is our code of conduct and ethics general order, section U16, which is violation of the criminal justice information system. Was on March 29th. She queried the tag number of Miss Massey, and that was Megan Watson. She utilizes NCIC, and it was not work related. On March 30th, she queried the name Stacy Massey with a date of birth of 10/9/99, and that query was in Watson, and it was not work related. On June 22nd of last year, her platoon was not working. She queried the name Stacy Massey with 5 different dates of birth. Those queries were made in Watson, and they were not work related. All those queries were not on file. And on June 26th of last year, her platoon was not working. She queried the name Stacy Massey with 6 different dates of birth. The queries were made in Watson. They were not work related, and they were not on file. On June 30th of last year, while on duty, Officer Young queried the name Stacy Massey with 7 different dates of birth, and those queries were made in Watson. They're not work related, and all queries except one were not on file. One search did produce Stacy Massey's personal information. On June 30th of 2024, while on duty, Officer Young queried the tag number of Stacy Massey. That query was made in Watson, which utilizes NCIC and was not work related. She also violated General Order 300.08, which is Code of Conduct and Ethics, Section U11, which is attempt to gain unauthorized access to terminal computers, modems, networks, or stored data. Because on July 16th, 2024, while on duty, Officer Young queried the names Brooke Fritz and Stacy Massey using the Integrated Criminal Justice Portal, and the driver's license was located on both. The vehicle registration was located on Miss Massey, and the queries were not work related. Officer Young used this information that she obtained from NCIC about Stacy Massey to seek her out on Facebook and messaged her multiple times to the point that Miss Massey stated that she felt that it was harassment. Ms. Young was, she resigned in lieu of termination. The chief had a meeting with her to present what his findings were, or present the findings of the investigation and what the discipline was going to be, suggested to the city manager. Ms. Young resigned later that day.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the commissioners, the representative from the police department?
I've got one question. Did the police department pursue any criminal charges for the misuse of the system?
We referred the case to the district attorney's office.
What's the current status of that?
I don't know.
Thank you.
So my question right out of my mouth. I do have a follow-up question. I'm reading some of her interviews and she's like, I don't remember, I don't recall. Did she ever acknowledge and admit that she did actually do this? And 7 times is what I'm counting. She accessed this information 7 times.
Yes, she did admit that, say that she did.
What was the reason to you that she did this?
She was in a dark place.
In the span from March through June? It's what I'm looking at, I think.
Yes, I
So
believe
she
so.
was in this dark place for several months. By her own. Thank you.
Any other questions for the department representative?
Commissioner Green, how long did she work for your department?
She was hired in January 4th, 2021, and resigned in January of this year, I think it was.
You know what her work record was like, work performance?
I don't think there was any issues prior to this.
All right, thank you, sir. If you remain available, we would appreciate it. Ms. Young and Mr. Byrd.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jack Burke here with Ms. Young. Just to expand on some of the questions that were just asked as far as Ms. Young's status at the time that this occurred. She was in a relationship that had gone extremely south and had some other stressors that were interacting upon her mind, such as her grandfather passed away, her canine partner for the department also died. She reached out, asked for help from the department, asked for some time off, and unfortunately was told that the best they could do for her was she could take her lunch break outside the city limits. She did have multiple stressors on her. She has admitted she made those searches. She took no action with the searches. She didn't take any actions towards anybody. The Facebook posts were actually prior to all of the searches, and she gained that information based upon other rumors and circulating talk between the department and other individuals. She has admitted that she pulled those searches. I think everybody here that has worked in law enforcement is familiar with disciplinary actions that usually result from pulling that type of information. She has since been hired by the Washington County Sheriff's Department. I believe there is a letter on your iPads from Sheriff Sexton, who in his last paragraphs of that letter could probably say it better than anybody as far as what he believes his path forward would be with Ms. Young as far as a training program, mentoring program, and how he believes that she would be an asset to law enforcement. She had no prior disciplinary issues. She was a good officer, had good marks, was a canine officer, and was in a good position until some stressors got the better of her and she made these mistakes. We respectfully ask that the committee recommend no action been taken on it and that she be allowed to work at Washington County under the plan that Sheriff Sexton has laid out for her.
This is Commissioner Green, and this is my question to Ms. Young. So your attorney said that you took no action based on these inquiries through NCIC. So what was the reason behind it?
The reason behind it was I had been, my partner had been unfaithful, and we split, but I could not remove myself from the situation like I wanted to due to constant communication from this person, unwanted communication from this person, in person at my house, and trying to get a hold of me to quote unquote come clean, but that meant I was bombarded with more and more information of his acts that I did not want, and I put a stop to in summertime.
So after getting this information from NCIC, what did you do with it?
Looked at it and put it on down.
What's this about Facebook? Did you make a Facebook post or did this?
There was no Facebook post.
Okay, so that just was a misunderstanding in the investigation.
So no, there was a Facebook message. So I had messaged the first email that when I did not look up through NCIC, I had messaged her before I looked her up. And it was cordial, it was polite. We were on good terms for the entire spring and summer. And then communication stopped because I stopped it. And then the second female, I reached out to through Facebook Messenger as well, and it was polite, and she was polite. Everyone parted ways.
And to clarify, if I may, there's a difference between, for those that don't know, I mean, I had to educate myself a little bit. There's a difference between a Facebook message and a Facebook post. The message is private to the person receiving it, such as I was giving you a text message. The post would be open for the public to see. So that's why the difference between the two.
Yeah, I don't do Facebook or any social media, so I don't know that. But am I correct that someone made an anonymous complaint that she was harassing them?
So the original complaint that came into Chief Church's office was the first female. And she had she felt that she was harassed and threatened, but it was a third party that was making this complaint for her. That is my understanding. And that original complaint was unfounded. In the
Internal affairs found that that was
it
unfounded.
was unfounded.
Had you ever met this commissioner, right? Had you ever met, the individual before that he started saying, or you never seen her before? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but did you just get on there just to see what she looks like? Because you never did anything with the information that you got off her, correct?
Yes. Yes, I can't speak to my mindset at the time because that was not a mindset I had ever had before, or do I have now? But I do believe it was.
I could see where the curiosity could lead you there, and then it's in front of you and tempting the thing that disturbs me is the mindset that we've got law enforcement officers out there carrying weapons, get in these bad places, which they don't have anything to do with what we're dealing with now, but it's unfortunate we keep that spot.
Mr. Commissioner, and I'm gonna ask one more question. Since NCIC, you can no longer access it based on Johnson City turning you into the FBI process, how do you feel like you can perform your function in another agency when you can't utilize NCIC?
So the usage of NCIC is undetermined. I know my sheriff has reached out to the directors of CJIS, and he's communicating with them. I don't know.
So it's still pending about whether or not you can have access?
It's pending.
And if I may, I believe that's part of the plan that the sheriff has for her, is a probationary period where she's going to be monitored and everything is going to be made sure that she is compliant with everything so she can be reinstated.
Or do you have any indication from the DA's office that they are looking into pursuing charges? You're hearing crickets, but
We have heard nothing.
Ma'am, are you aware that the people that have done similar things to this have wound up prosecuted? That it's a violation of the law? That law enforcement officers across the state have access to this really critically important information, but it's confidential information. And that is a great trust that you violated. You realize that? So how can this commission, because you said you were in a bad place. So let's fast forward 2 years down the road and maybe, if this works out for you and you're off that probation where they're looking at your queries, that you go through another bad place or you become suspicious of your next partner. Why should this commission trust you to have access, number one, to be a police officer or deputy sheriff, but number two, to even have access to that information again?
I had shown myself trustworthy for 4 years previously with the department, and I had been through other majorly hard things, through work, stressors at work, and stressors in my personal life before then. And I had shown myself trustworthy. Unfortunately, last year, there was a compiling of stuff I had never encountered. He mentioned losing my canine. That was during the investigation that was ended with the city. So the investigation was started in September and I faced yet another stressor in October and was still found trustworthy enough to be on the road with full access until November. And I was trustworthy and professional all the way through. Once I received help, I did put myself in counseling after my discussion with my lieutenant in early March, requesting to not be at work. And unfortunately that was denied. But I did seek help on my own and I have regularly seen her once a week. And as proof of being able to maintain it and become better, it has worked. I am back to the person that I was before this.
So what happens if you encounter, and I think paraphrasing, a series of circumstances again that put you back in the same place? How can you be trusted in the future?
I would handle it much different instead of taking that. I handled it the best way I knew at the beginning of this year, and go to my supervisor and basically say that I wasn't fit to be here. And please send me home. And-
Chuck, I'm gonna mention one more thing too, that the fact that it went on for several days, repeated searches, almost seems an obsession until you found the answers you were looking for. And even though you didn't do anything, it's almost like borderline stalking, which you're doing electronically, until you can find out exactly who this person is and the information that you're trying to get, where they live, what kind of car they drive, how old they are, what they look like. And the fact that it didn't go any further than that is good for both you and her. But it worries me that it seems to be an obsessive behavior. And like I say, it's borderline stalking electronically. So I've got concerns about, I know what the director's saying about how do we have any confidence that this won't repeat itself, because the fact that it happened once, this is a high stress job. You know that, you did 4 years with it. Stressors are always there. Personal stressors just complicate things. And the fact that you jeopardized your agency, not only you may face criminal charges, but your agency can lose NCIC access for every officer there. So it's much more complicated than one person making a mistake and only affecting you. It affects a whole agency. And so I don't know that you realize the ramifications about how badly this could impact law enforcement in Johnson City.
Well, I'll just say thank you for being honest about getting therapy. That's a hard thing for people to admit, especially a police officer. So I commend you for that. And I hope that you have the ability to cope better now through the therapy.
If I may, she has taken responsibility for this. She did pay a heavy price for it. She had started building a career there, lost that career there, and has had somebody that knows her and is willing to step up for her, who is a sheriff of a county in Tennessee with a great amount of experience. And he is requesting in his letter that she be allowed to keep her post under that training program that he's laid out. And we would ask that the committee recommend no action be taken at this time.
Just out of curiosity, ma'am, and to your counsel, and what may be something for the commissioners to discuss, they may not have an appetite for it, I don't know. Something akin to a formal probation of sorts, where you would be formally required to, and whatever agency hires you to report to the commission. very similar to what we did with Grundy County. For our commissioners that were there for that. Just an option. It did not seem like conversation was fast and furious at that time. I mean, really, the options are, you know, you can do nothing. You can do some level of punishment. You could, you know, enter into some sort of agreed order that does not revoke her certification. You could suspend, and you can decertify. And I think I mentioned take no action, but just to make sure, because I know you said it, Counselor, you can also take no action.
I'll just toss it out there. I'm gonna make a motion to have her enter a 1-year sentence of probation where she reports to this commission.
So inside that probation, does that mean that she still works, or that she would be, since the sheriff has her under a 1-year probationary according to his own letter? So if there should be something that does not go as planned with that, then what would be the repercussion? Come back for an informal, or what would go from there?
You know, how much detail we put into the decision, you know, they can report in that there's been a violation of Washington County's policies and procedures, and she comes back, or it would be an automatic. If that happens, she's just automatically suspended or decertified.
But if we move to a formal, there's a time period before a formal to take place that would allow that time period to go through also, right?
Well, by the natural
Progression of
of
things.
things, that would be, but yeah,
That
right.
would be another option that would be similar to being probation.
There just wouldn't be any, it wouldn't be, I guess, monitored. I think that's kind of maybe where they're leaning toward is, it'd be more like an
They
unmonitored.
still have to report back at some point when they come back to the formal, it's what their work at.
Right.
Over that period of time.
So I got one more question on the 1-year probation. So would it be required of her sheriff or her chief or who to report back to post, and how often would that be to know how things are going? I mean, we need some documentation that things are going okay, you know, via an official email saying, hey, everything's good for the month of May 2025. It's, you know, I mean, we need some sort of documentation.
I mean, it could be any of that. It could be, you know, 30 days, 60 days, every 90 days, not put too much, how much of a burden that'd be on reporting to our full-time staff, but,
I think that'd be on the agency. I mean, we're not gonna go hunt that down.
No, right.
Yeah, they'd turn that into us, and then we would report that back to the commission.
And so just a couple of things. First on that, I think if that was something that the commission was interested in doing, this informal subcommittee was interested in doing, I think what we would want to do would be to reset this for next month and give our legal team and her attorney and her an opportunity to discuss that with the commission, if that's something they're open to. The only thing I would maybe say to counter the idea of putting her up for a formal, if the intent is to have a period of time to evaluate, it takes a lot of resources to put together a formal hearing for the post commission. We've got to secure a court reporter, an administrative law judge. We've got to get a quorum, and then everybody has to be here to hear that. So I would, my preference in guiding this informal committee would be to not do that. If we want her to be in a formal, then, you know, what I would do is decertify her today, and then they can then appeal that, and then we can actually have a formal where Johnson City comes, presents the state, Commerce Insurance present, our attorneys present the case of the Johnson City Police Department. But, you know, I guess the first question, would y'all be open to an agreement of a 1-year period where she's monitored and it's a probationary period by post?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the letter from the sheriff, Sheriff Sexton, proposes that exact thing. And I think the second to last paragraph of his letter, that she would be on a 1-year probationary period where she'd be monitored.
So I think as far as that goes, just for her recommendation for the 1-year probationary, I think we could probably just wind up including that we could reschedule till next month. That way, we've got the 1 year on the table. They seem to be in agreement that they would be willing to go up. Gives legal time to work out the fine details and then just wind up going from there and maybe.
I mean, and this is still, this is still a disciplinary action. So,
Sure.
I mean, what you did is it's egregious. I mean, you violated the trust of, you violated the trust of your agency, your leadership, all of us that have access throughout the course of day-to-day business in the state, the trust of the public that, they have no, none of us have any option but to have all of this data put into these systems that are queryable by, or able to be queried. I don't know what the proper English would be, but to be able to be queried by law enforcement. And you, just for the reasons you gave, which are not good enough, they're not good enough. You violated on so many different levels, the trust of the people, the trust of the profession. So understand that this is a disciplinary action, but it's one that, if you're not going to be prosecuted for it, you've lost your job. You paid a price, but you paid that price because you committed an egregious violation of trust against a profession that you and the people that you raised your right hand and swore an oath to serve and protect. So understand that this is a disciplinary action. It's not getting off scot-free, but it is giving you a chance to rehabilitate yourself.
So I'll wind up seconding her motion, just with the review of May 2025, the next meeting.
And appetite of the commission would seem to be to have something maybe memorialized in writing as far as, wouldn't have to be anything complicated, I think. In terms of the probationary plan.
I had a quick question for the counselor. In doing the background check with Washington County, how much information did they find out from Johnson City? Because in the letter, he states that he doesn't know all the details. So I'm a little confused as to what he knows and what he doesn't know.
He knows the reasons why what occurred. I think if you look at the last portion, he says, I'm aware of her bad decision, the violation and misuse of the driver's license, but I do not feel that this incident is one bad decision that the level should be taken away her abilities. He knows what occurred. I believe what he refers to in that is he doesn't know every single detail of the entire investigation. She knows what the infractions were. She disclosed them. And I am sure that he contacted Johnson City prior to hiring her.
That was my initial concern because we do find from time to time issues with agencies not really doing great background checks and things kind of fall through the cracks. Not that we've had that issue in Washington County, but I was just kind of concerned the way that was worded in the letter.
I think he readdresses that towards the end of his letter.
Ms. Young, what are your duties with Washington County now? What do you do for them now?
So he hired me under light duty status because I am not medically cleared for patrol work until late May due to a horse-related accident. So I am under what would be a civilian role. I work the front desk. I work with reports. I do have access to Watson, but no NCIC, so I can work with the public with their reports and give them reports.
Does Washington County, do you know that you accessed the system 7 times, or does he just think it was 1 time?
He knows in full.
You know, full story.
I sat down with him and the rest of administration and told them.
Motion in a second.
So we have a motion and a second. And just to repeat, it would be the commission to enter into a probationary agreement with Ms. Young and to reset it to May to discuss in case there's a breakdown in communication. There is no such agreement. Is that Is that accurate? Any further discussion on the motion?
I just want Ms. Young to, I'm gonna be against this motion because I think this is, as Director Kane said, it's an outrageous thing that you're doing, a public trust. But I also look at the fact of what the people that are watching today that are law enforcement officers think, well, what can I do to my boyfriend or girlfriend? Now I'll get on here and look and see what they look like or what their address is. I mean, how we handle these down the road, it look like we're just, not doing anything to it, on somebody else's picture up higher. So,
Well, and officers have queried names, not done anything with it, and wound up indicted and charged and convicted. I mean, it's an extremely serious
We have an
offense.
officer right now that's on agreed order suspension for doing the exact same thing. We got indicted out of Wilson County.
and I think what makes it different out of this is the fact that the sheriff is willing to step out on a limb. Is kind of what they're basing their thoughts off of it. So,
Well, my other thought of it is that the DA is also not pursuing charges. I don't know the reasoning for that decision making, but that was also the second part of my decision making on that was that part as well. So, I mean, it's kind of, I think it was a mixture of both there for me on that end. And I mean, yeah, what happens in the future, I don't know, every case is different, and so, just have to take each one as they go and do the best we can.
That's what it sounds like. There'll be some opportunity for other discussion when it comes up next month if need be. So
I just wonder too, to take that data and to misuse that query if you don't open yourself and the agency you work for up to a significant amount of civil liability for that information being queried as well. So I mean, it's just problematic on so many different levels, but I agree that the difference is that we have an agency that has employed her. Do you understand the fact that you have a sheriff? There are only 95 sheriffs in the state that has gone out on a limb to write a letter to this commission, which is impactful. And that if you fail in this process to maintain, to once again demonstrate a lack of integrity, that's going to reflect on the sheriff who wrote this letter. Do you understand the seriousness of that? Do you understand what it means to have a sheriff, a sitting sheriff of this state, write a letter to this commission and ask that this commission not take action based on what a police department is found serious enough to think you should not be a police officer or a deputy sheriff? Do you understand that? What does that mean to you? What does it say to you? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
To have Sheriff Sexton be willing to step out on has meant the absolute world. And I have the utmost desire to please him and his department.
All I can say is, I don't know if that's going to go, but if it goes through, don't let him down. And don't violate our trust again. The people, the 7 million people of this state that rely on law enforcement to keep confidential information confidential and only access it when they're supposed to. We have a motion. It's properly seconded before the informal committee. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. We have 2 votes affirmative and 1 vote against. Motion carries. Counselor, Investigator Creed, would you get with Mr. Bird and his client and start working out the details about how we're going to communicate to get this agreed order done? This is going to be reset for next month. If we get the agreed order in place before the next meeting, you will not have to appear. The attorneys can tell us about the order, and then we'll just move on from there. It probably wind up.
We're going before the full commission on the.
Yes.
Okay, so probably best that they do.
Okay.
Or, remotely potentially, but.
Well, and this is weird too, because we have, actually, I think that motion will have to be voted on or approved by the full commission,
As part of.
which will occur after the May informal because we're backed up. So we're gonna push it between now and the next time that you're on the agenda, try to have that order worked out with our attorneys.
Sure we can.
Yes, I would just make sure he's got, which I'm sure you got Dennis.
He has all our.
And then,
Yeah,
Probably-
I think we both got.
We all got it.
We'll do that. Thank you, Commissioner.
right. Lebanon Police Department, Brian Christopher Gilly. Mr. Gilly was submitted for decertification based on resigning during an internal investigation. We have a representative from the Lebanon Police Department here. Sir, if you would, for the record, please state your name and your position with the department and tell us why Mr. Gilly is up for decertification.
Yes, sir. My name is Eddie Brown. I'm a lieutenant with the Lebanon Police Department, in professional statements. And I think you've already been submitted a summary of the investigation, but I've shortened it down. I'm just going to kind of go through it and read it. Officer Gilly, he was hired by the Hendersonville Police Department in Henderson, Nevada back in July of 2021, where he received his certification as a police officer. Back in so in October, on October the 24th of 2022, he was hired with the Lebanon Police Department. During his tenure there, as far as disciplinary actions, on October the 17th, 2023, he received a verbal counseling for not activating his in-car video in his petroleum. On 7/24 of 2024, he was involved in an internal affairs investigation, went through a pre-action hearing, and because of that pre-action hearing, he was disciplined or written reprimand for conduct in becoming an officer. Just a little story behind that. After a traffic stop, he stopped a female, issued some tickets to the female. During the traffic stop, she opened up that she was having some issues with her boyfriend and disclosed those problems with Officer Gilly at the time. An hour after the traffic stop, Officer Gilly says an Instagram popped up on his phone. He reached out to her to see if she was okay. That in turn allowed the lady's boyfriend to reach out to Officer Gilly and tell him how he was displeased with. He looked held law enforcement at a high standard because of this. He looked bad on him, and there was no more. I think he responded back. Officer Gilly responded back. And there was no other conversation. So December the 19th, 2024, Chief Justice ordered another internal affairs investigation after receiving an official complaint from Randy Moss. He actually works for the local fire department with us. So Mr. Moss filed an official complaint on Officer Gilly regarding him having an affair with his wife, who is a school teacher. Shelby is a school teacher at the elementary school, Castle Heights Elementary. So Mr. Moss located text message threads that indicated Shelby and Gilly having the sexual relations, digital penetration on the school campus inside her classroom. When confronted, Shelby eventually admitted to the affair starting back in August of 2024 and the sexual relations in the classroom after school hours. So when I interviewed Officer Gilly on December the 19th, Officer Gilly agreed that he met Shelby at Castle Heights Elementary School. One of his main responsibilities there, Officer Gilly is the air officer, so he traveled, he went to different schools throughout the city, Lebanon Special School District. So he made it one of his responsibilities to build relationships with teachers and students. They had heard him and Shelby had mutual friends on social media, which opened the door for more conversation back in August of 2024. This allowed her to share her troubles with her marriage that she was having with Mr. Moss. They were both members of the same gym, which is Planet Fitness. After workouts, they would meet in the parking lots and talk. This allowed their relationship to escalate in December of 2024. This led them to meeting at various locations after they both got off work to have sexual relations. In October, he actually rented a hotel room, a local hotel room, for 2 days Shelby would come over during the daytime and then go home and be with her kids at nighttime. Brian initially said that he did not have sexual relations with Shelby while on duty in his patrol car or on school campus except for them kissing. So our body camera systems, when you power it on, it's recording all the time. So we have watch going. So we went back and pulled that. So on August the 24th at 2:55, Brian Gilly's body worn camera recorded them kissing in her classroom. Those students were present. Brian was on duty and in uniform at the time. So when I confronted Gilly about having sexual relations, the digital penetration on campus of the school, he denied it. So I confronted him again with, I told him I had text messages that Mr. Moss provided me after he found the text thread in Shelby's phone talking about this. And basically, he said that this is something they just talk about in their practice. So I confronted him again, asked him again, a little more aggressive, and when he admitted to having the sexual relations, the digital penetration on campus in her classroom around 3:30 p.m. School's out. And he admitted and agreed that there would still be children on campus, staff on campus of the school, possibly parents of those students. Brian described this that happened in the corner of the classroom over by our desk. The body worn camera footage this appears to be the same location where they first had their first kiss, I guess, in the area as far as the body worn camera. So they continued to develop the text messages. He had admitted that the Friday before this was reported that they was ending their relationship. There was text messages to support that. Also, when you continue to look at the text message thread I had was from November the 19th of 2024, I think, until December the 17th is when it ended. The last one I had in December the 19th is when this internal investigation was initiated. So with that text thread, the appearances they were still having a relationship after he says that he ended it. He actually, the last text message was he would have picked up some pizza for her and brought her to school to meet for lunch that day. That's the last message I had. So the policy violations for the Lebanon Police Department would be compliance with regulations, truthfulness, immoral conduct of a common officer, of an employee, and the body worn camera policy. As he was being served with the pre-action or disciplinary hearing notice, he actually submitted his resignation. So,
Questions for the representative of the Lebanon Police Department?
This is Commissioner Green. How long did you work for your agency?
from October, he was hired October the 24th of 2020.
And in that time, you had several complaints against him.
Well, he received a verbal counseling on October 17, 2023, for not initiating his, or turning on his, or activating his, car camera. And then there was another internal affairs investigation on 7/24/24, which ended up, he went to the hearing, ended up being disciplined, a written discipline, or conduct for reaching out to the lady after the trial, so.
Any other questions from commissioners? Hearing none, Lieutenant, if you would just be available in case you need to clarify.
Yes.
Thanks. Mr. Gilly. If you would both identify yourself for the record before getting started.
Good afternoon. My name is Bennett Wills, counsel for Mr. Gilly, present to my right.
And Brian Gilly.
Start off by saying that this is probably one of the most embarrassing moments for Mr. Gilly. He resigned in shame, let's call it. Mr. Gilly's history is with the DARE program. He's influential with the kids. Everyone here is familiar with what the DARE program does. And as working with the Lebanon Special School District, he is an example to the kids and to the community. Mr. Gilly was divorced back in May of 2024. And he did begin this relationship with Shelby Moss. It was his understanding that she was pursuing a divorce from Mr. Moss. The relationship, of course, as Lieutenant Brown discussed with you, progressed over a period of several months from just casually knowing each other in the school system to social media to engaging in a physical relationship. I'll note for everyone here that the alleged digital penetration occurred one time. It was on school campus. It was while he was in uniform. However, it was after hours. There were no children present, and it was with some privacy. I'm not justifying it by any stretch. Please don't misconstrue that. But the most important thing, I think, is that there were no kids present. He is not engaged in any misconduct in a patrol car or otherwise on duty. So with that, Mr. Gilly has terminated his relationship with Mrs. Moss. The last communication was sometime in December. My understanding is that it was just simply about a pizza party for the kids. But after he discovered with Ms. Moss that she was interested in possibly reconciling with her husband, that's when they decided to cease their relationship. Relationships are messy. This was not a good one. As a result, Mr. Gilly resigned with some shame. And I'd ask the commission today to not take any action. He's already lost a lot. He is apologetic for his actions, but we don't want him to lose his certification and be able to not seek employment in law enforcement elsewhere. And likewise, this would also affect, of course, his DARE certification. He would no longer be able to teach our youth all the bad things about drugs and alcohol and what they don't need to be engaged in. So with that, I'll open it up to you.
From the commissioners.
Mr. Gilly, let me ask you this question. You intentionally misled the investigator when you were confronted the first time about this investigation.
Yes, sir. It's very embarrassing to talk about your personal, relationships. When he first said sex, I wasn't thinking of anything about, the penetration that way. I was just thinking of actual sexual conduct like that. But once he rephrased it, then I understood and I did tell the truth.
How many days did this investigation, how many times were you called in over how many days?
It was just the one day on December 19th.
You said you changed your answer when he clarified sexual contact. It wasn't that he said he had video camera of the action.
That was part of the clarification.
Yeah, and you attended police academy where it describes sexual acts and sexual conduct. So you did know that. Do you want to change your answer and just say you intentionally lied?
I intentionally lied.
Thank you for your.
Mr. Gill, so where are you currently employed?
Currently, I employed with Energy Transport. I obtained my CDL and started home fuel.
You want to get back into law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Why? So you admitted you lied. So that'll be a problem. I think if you were to survive this committee, that's a problem. You engaged in sexual activity in a school as an officer who is supposed to protect children at that school. This really kind of goes back to the last case that we had, not 5-10 minutes ago. that it's a violation of trust. And I know that your attorney and counselor, you said no kids were present, but you admitted to the lieutenant, if I'm not mistaken from his testimony, that there are still children present on campus. And not only are you an SRO, but you also are entrusted to further teach the children. So why should you have another chance? Why should you continue to be allowed to work in this profession?
The way I've been able to interact with these children, the way that they've come to me and trusted me because of the way I've taught them, I've impacted so many lives. I know I've done wrong, but I've also have impacted that community in so many ways.
Were some of your students in Mrs. Moss' class?
No, sir. I taught 5th grade. Miss Moss was a 3rd grade teacher, but as my position, I was supposed to interact with all students and teachers because they would be upcoming into the 5th grade, so that they would be able to know who I am, trust me, so that they'd be able to engage with my classes.
Are you serving as an SRO when you're there as a DARE officer too?
No, sir.
Just as a DARE instructor,
Yes, sir.
rotating through different schools?
Yes, sir.
So what are your hours when you're working?
From 7 to 3. Or any other like extracurricular activities with the school.
Why didn't you just admit what you did?
I was in shock. I mean, there's no explanation. It just, sorry.
Lying is a conscientious choice. It's not a mistake, it's a conscientious choice.
It was a mistake, and it would never happen again because I've been put in this position. I don't want to be here. I have 4 months off, not able to work. I just recently got this new position that I'm very embarrassed.
I'll come back to this. Not that your actions weren't inappropriate and didn't represent your agency well, but the fact that you lied over, I won't say a minor issue, is my concern now is what happens when it's a major issue? What happens when you've made a really bad mistake? In law enforcement, that can happen too. Because we've had other attorneys come in and say, you've had all these people make these mistakes, give them one more chance. The honesty issue is what reflects the most for me, is you're trying to hide something that isn't as egregious as what we just heard on some of these other cases. Because what you did affected you and this woman and her husband. Other cases have involved the individual officer and their whole agency and the profession. And you're lying over something very minor that worries me, and you're saying, well, I was just in shock. Well, think how bad it would be if something else had happened. You've got a history of not having your camera on. You've got a history of having complaints involving women. Wasn't the first time you've been called in on a complaint about a woman. And you lied about it here. I'm sure they told you, we've got this complaint from this lady's husband. You should have known they had some kind of evidence. You've been in law enforcement any time at all. You don't get called in because they have suspicion. You called in because they have facts. You intentionally tried to mislead the investigator. That's my biggest concern, is the honesty issue.
Kind of gets back to what Commissioner Wright likes to quote, the 3 W's.
Four now.
4, right? Yeah. Web. So it's no, I was just saying it really gets back to that. I mean, you could probably boil down most of what we deal with into that bucket. One of those 4 buckets.
And for your curiosity, anybody listening, that's whiskey women records. Seems what always gives law enforcement officers.
Well, it seems like in this case, we have,
I'm gonna make a motion that we just decertify based on the honesty issue. That's my primary focus.
all right, we have a motion to decertify and a second. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, say no. Hearing none, motion carries. And to decertify. So Investigator Creed will let you know your options and next steps. All right, Lewis County Sheriff's Office, Brandon Keith Grady. Brandon Grady, are you here? Brandon Grady. Brandon Grady. He is not here. So I would entertain a
Make a
motion.
motion to certify by default.
He was properly served. Just to verify.
Yep, that's fine, green card.
Indeed, we have a motion for decertification by default based on his termination and a proper second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, Brian Allen Hancock. Mr. Hancock was submitted for decertification based on his termination. Do we have a representative from Rutherford County? Go ahead and step on up, sir. And I know we've met in the past, but if you would, just for the record, identify yourself and give your position with the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office, and then state why we're here requesting decertification.
Yes, sir. My name is Sergeant Sean Benson with Rutherford County Sheriff's Office. I'm with Sergeant the Training Division. It is a request and the recommendation of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office to seek post decertification of Brian Hancock for a culmination of multiple violations of policy, procedure, insubordination, false statement of facts in an official report, and excessive force. It is the belief of the Rutherford County Sheriff's Office that these actions will continue to occur and get more severe as demonstrated by Mr. Hancock's continued conduct while on the job since receiving multiple verbal counselings, a written warning, have failed to do any positive behavioral change in Mr. Hancock's actions. It is due to Mr. Hancock's flagrant continued violations and disregard for policy, procedure, and directive that Mr. Hancock was terminated without eligibility for rehire on 12 December 2024. This recommendation for decertification is not one that comes lightly or without much deliberation. The decision to seek decertification stems from a pattern of misconduct that's progressively getting more severe in the actions of Mr. Hancock. The investigation took place and Mr. Hancock stemmed from an excessive force incident on a restrained juvenile. It is seen during a search of a restrained juvenile who was being searched by a primary arresting officer, not Mr. Hancock. Mr. Hancock delivered a leg sweep kick on the juvenile when the juvenile was passively non-compliant with the arresting deputy's commands. This action is a direct violation of multiple policies. During the continued investigation of Mr. Hancock's actions and work performance as a whole, it was found to be documented that Mr. Hancock has violated many policies starting on or about 15 September 2024. The violations stemmed from being out of assigned patrol zones without authorization, failing to back up a deputy, violating the Fourth Amendment rights of a citizen, insubordination, unsatisfactory performance of duties during a traffic stop. The singular action of the excessive use of force on the restrained juvenile resulted in the termination of Mr. Hancock. However, the pattern of misconduct by Mr. Hancock that has not changed after intervention from the supervision culminated in the excessive use of force incident is just cause for why we're seeking decertification.
So he did a leg sweep of this juvenile. Did the juvenile have to go to the hospital or receive any kind of treatment?
What's the work record for Mr. Hancock? What's his work record?
I'm sorry, sir.
What's his work record? A lot of disciplinary action. How long you worked for you?
He worked with us. He started in May 1st of 2023. So he'd been with us
Short period of time.
a short period, about 18 months.
Mr. Ryan said, new officer or prior certified?
He came to us from Missouri, and he went through the transition course when he arrived with us.
How long was he an officer in Missouri? Do you know?
No, sir, I don't. Not off the top of my head.
This year that he knowingly made false entry into government records. Could you explain that a little more?
Yes, ma'am. That was in reference to a traffic stop report. And one that stated, give me just a second, I'll pull it up real quick. In a traffic stop that he conducted, it says, I did not locate any contraband on Robert's person at that time. I then searched the car based on the odor of marijuana, but did not locate any contraband. However, on body cam, it is shown where he found what he called a crystalline substance that he believed was a narcotic of some sort, and then did not bring that in. He wound up tossing it back into the bed of the vehicle and just disregarded it.
Commissioner Green, I'm reading this report. There's like several summaries on the arrest of the juvenile. They were just doing really a welfare check to find this juvenile that had left home and his parents were trying to locate him.
Yes, sir.
And then looks like Deputy Carlson's report, he said he even approached the young man and said, you're not in trouble, and just wanted to get him home to his parents.
Yes, sir.
Why did they arrest him? You know? He had, I mean, he just at somebody else's house.
No, sir, I believe pull the report back up here and look and see what the charge
They
was.
said they see some alcohol in the room. He said the boy picked up a bag and put it in his pocket, but we're still trying to figure out what the original, what they would have charged him with originally.
So I can get back to you on that. I don't have that
We
the
can
arrest
we can
report
ask,
in front of me at this time.
we can ask Mr. Hancock.
Commissioner, fight again. So this investigation wasn't based on a complaint. It was actually based upon the use of force, and then it going to supervisors, and that triggers a review of it.
Yes, sir.
Am I understanding?
It did.
And then that and fatality with all this other stuff was what founded our decision.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
tell me a little bit about the Fourth Amendment violation?
That just be asking the juvenile for the search when there was no probable cause or even the suspicion.
I think it's on a separate time period.
All I currently have on that right now is the date of 9/28/2024, when he received a verbal counseling over this incident. I don't have details on the incident itself.
Curious, how often is it that two officers both lose their body cameras and accidentally switch their body
It's
cameras?
the first time I've ever heard of it. But they're on the body cam footage, you see clear, both of them get the ground and then both of them take them back up and reattach them.
Looks like maybe this Fourth Amendment may have occurred on December 7th. Looking at this traffic stop and finding stuff in the vehicle and throwing stuff in the bed of the truck.
Yeah, one report I'm looking at is, it has that made at 9/28/24. But, all this slow with confusion.
Actually, the event occurred on 12/6. Sergeant Green wrote this report on December 7th of this review. Reviews failed to show a reason to stop, not observed by footage. The deputy documented there was no contraband found when in fact he acknowledged the presence of open containers and cleared two with crystalline substance. May have been narcotic related, which he disposed of.
I want to point out for my fellow commission members that on that stop with the white container, the white substance in the container, the officer says, I know what that looks like, and I'll tell you what that is, and then he ignores it and tosses it in the back of the truck. So almost sounds like an unwillingness to do his job.
All right, you gave us a lot of stuff. Can you elaborate on the insubordination? You know what that was?
On the insubordination, I believe that was one where he was instructed to go 10-8 from a call by multiple times over multiple duration of time after the call should have been cleared, and to the point where I believe one of the supervisors physically called on the phone and said, go 10-8 now. And then they had that discussion later back at the control room.
How long was he employed with you all again?
From May 1st of 2023 till December 12th of 2024, for about 18 months.
Would you say that the number of disciplinary incidents that he was involved in with your agency is on par with what other deputies tend to receive during the same, 2-year period, or would this be, say, high?
I would say this is high.
That's the answer I thought you'd say. I mean, it seems like a lot of disciplinary run-ins.
And this is an experienced officer coming.
Yes. Yes, it just seems like this is, most officers probably go through their career without ever receiving any kind of formal discipline. And this guy, from May or March to December of the following year has got quite a lengthy history of being disciplined.
Just as a timeline of fact, we're when we have our new hires and our trainees, they're on a probationary period where they're over streaming watch for a full year. So they're being self-corrected and things of that nature. When everything comes up, it's all understandable that we expect that to occur. But it seems like once that time expired, it wasn't but about a couple of months before issues started occurring on a reoccurring basis.
Any more questions for the agency? Hearing none. Thank you very much, sir. If you would just hang out. Mr. Hancock and your attorney, if you would please identify yourself for the record, sir. If he could identify himself, and then you could proceed with your counterpoints to what the sergeant said.
Yes, sir. Daniel Newburn, I'm a counsel for Mr. Hancock. I'm Brian Hancock. So I'm going to try to get through this because I know it's already 1:30. But just to let you all know, first of all, thank you for being here, for letting me talk. There's actually probably a really easy way to sit here and go through this. I don't know if you all want to do it, but I brought the video. Put it in the flash drive, let you all look at it. I've been a police officer for 23 years, retired in life. Retired as a commander over Veteran National. I have seen so many use of force incidents, good and bad. And I've even said on the disciplinary boards. There is no way that I would possibly be here on this kind of case. You can watch it. This leg sweep that we're talking about, it's a juvenile that they went over to get him because his mom said he wouldn't come home. They are so polite to this young man and tell him, hey, look, you're not in any trouble. Okay, we just want to get you home to your family. He bends down right in front of him and picks up a bag of marijuana. They said, hey, don't do that. And then shoves his hands inside of a hoodie. Now, you all are cops. That's not safe. It's not a safe environment. So what they do, still didn't do anything to take him down. They just grabbed his arms. And when they do that, he pulls away. And yeah, he pulls and bites him so hard that both of their body cameras go. And that doesn't happen. I've never seen it happen either. But it did on this one. You can actually watch it and see it. So then they pick their body cameras up, they put them on immediately because they want to make sure to record it with them. There's no issue with that. When I read the investigation, they have no concerns with that whatsoever. The juvenile was brought back outside. By the way, he is cussing them the whole time, belligerent, hostile. They asked him to spread his feet, and he refused. Now, again, we're all in law enforcement, at least I was. I think we all know that that's another safety issue. So if I sweep the leg, you're watching the video, he literally takes this kid's leg and does that. What in the world is wrong with doing that? This was not taken to the DA's office because there was no assault. There's no excessive use of force. Nobody ever looked at it. So then we get this incident of this traffic stop. I can show you that one too. I also printed pictures of it. If you want to see the pictures of this vial that they're saying that he's doing the bed of the truck, by the way, he did not. You can see it on video. His partner found that vial. His partner said, hey, look at this. The vial is completely empty. I don't know what kind of vial it is. I did narcotics work for 4 years. I've never seen something like that contained meth or whatever they're doing. He did go ask the guy. He asked him. The man said, I have no idea. Now, his truck was junky. There was stuff all in this thing. He still arrested him. He still did his job. Now, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why would somebody come before you all with these kind of issues? Because also, by the way, when I asked for a disciplinary file, none of this that he just said was in not one incident. I did a public records request, went through the right channels. This entire investigation I got on one piece of paper, in shipping. Nothing in his past. The write-up that he was talking about earlier, which, by the way, is not in his file, was done by the sergeant's son. So then I'm like, well, what's going on? Then somebody does forward us something that I found very interesting. And I think you all will too. Like I said, I got pictures of pretty much all of this, but this is a text message from this sergeant that is unbiased and completely trying to just make somebody go the right direction. To the entire shift with some kind of meme against this officer. Welcome to Centrella. Hancock is finally gone. I Googled Centrella and the first news story, this was their sign. Ready, great. Sent that to the entire shift. That's about one of the most unprofessional things I've seen.
Can you pass that around?
Absolutely. Sergeant Green get in trouble? Not at all. So this investigation that they did, let's talk about that just for a second. He was never even interviewed. I've done internal investigations. I can't remember one single time where at least they didn't try to interview the accused officer. Now they can, I need interview, they can quit. We saw that here today. He did none of that. He wants to be heard. He filed an appeal with the sheriff. He heard in front of the sheriff. Their appeals process is you ask for an appeal, the sheriff then goes back and looks at the same thing he already did and makes a determination. And of course, he sided with his previous decision from a week ago. He's not arguing to get back on Rutherford County Sheriff's Department. And in fact, he's been hired by another sheriff's department. And he's had no issues there whatsoever. Cannon County? Yes, sir. He works for Cannon County. He's had no answer to thing. Talk about this prior law enforcement experience. Guess what? There, he got to a car crash one time. That's it. So this is not a string of somebody that was doing wrong and not doing what they're supposed to do. The man didn't go 10-8 fast enough because he was trying to do a report. So he got a verbal reprimand written from Sergeant's son. That's still not even in the spot. So I'm asking the commission to allow this man a chance to go work for another department that may not have such a bias against him. I don't know what that stemmed from. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters for the commission for the informal hearing here today is that he be allowed to continue to work for Coffee County and continue his career, or sorry, Cannon County. Continue his career. Because we can go in front of the, like you said earlier, in front of the full board, that's a year. The full board is a year out. So if you all decide to certify somebody, it's a year before they can get her.
I'll just say, interrupt and say, we got burned by not looking at a video earlier on another person. Is it possible for us to see that video? My fellow commissioners would have told me I had to see the video.
Let's get to see the video first. It's what we're some history.
Commissioner Ryan, well, we're kind of waiting on that. I'll go ahead and ask follow-up questions too. Does the Cannon County Sheriff know about what happened to Rutherford County? And does he know that you're up for disciplinary?
Yes, sir, he's aware.
So he hired you on the pretense that you could lose your certification.
Yes, sir, I'm currently working in corrections in that.
And that sheriff is waiting for this hearing to determine what he goes through.
Mr. Commissioner Green, Mr. Hancock, what was your work record in, Missouri?
I would like to state there was 2 write-ups while I was at Centralia. I worked there from June of 2020 till I believe the end of April 2023. I don't remember the exact date. It was around the 20th to the 30th. The first write-up I received because I got in a car accident, went down a one-way alley, Many of us have gone down it one way. I honestly didn't know because the one-way sign is about 10 feet higher than it should be. Came to a complete stop at the intersection, looked both ways. There was multiple cars on the road. I didn't see any vehicles coming, so I started to slowly pull out, and a black Charger essentially materialized in front of me. I hit the side of it. I owned up to that. My chief obviously had to write me up. I understand that. The second write-up was an incident where I was investigating a domestic assault that had occurred between a woman and her estranged husband, who was a lieutenant for the VA police in Columbia, Missouri. While I was attempting to gather information from her, her boyfriend showed up at the house, who was another individual that we'd had multiple incidences with, drug-related, driving unsuspended, domestics, other assaults, harassment, reckless endangerment, destruction of property, those sorts of things. He shows up, started causing problems. He was verbally accosting my fellow officers that were on the scene with me. I multiple times told him to either be quiet or leave the scene, and he refused. He continued to act up while I tried to interview her and get her side of the story. I was intending on making an arrest on this man, as nothing irritates me more than someone that wears a badge doing something wrong. And I lost my temper and I told him to sit down and shut up, and I used an expletive that begins with that. And I'm not proud of it. It happened. My sergeant reviewed it and said he didn't have a problem with it. The only thing he told me was not to cuss that as much and try to watch it, which I agreed with. My chief reviewed it and said that he wanted to just write me up for it just to be safe, and issued a letter to the gentleman that made the complaint, which was the gentleman we had multiple issues with, where he told him that he was extremely lucky that the only thing I did was tell him to sit down and shut up, that I was well within my rights to arrest him for interference, and I could have taken him to jail that night, but I chose a different route because I understood that he was angry and upset that his girlfriend had been assaulted by her estranged husband. I ended up filling out a warrant affidavit for that lieutenant, and I left for Rutherford. We were already in the process of getting hired and moving to Tennessee, and I'd left Rutherford before I found out the outcome of that case. I don't know the outcome of that case.
Now that was arrested, what did you charge him?
The
juvenile?
The juvenile, he was charged with, I believe it was civil possession, resisting arrest, and I don't think we did unruly because I believe the parents had to fill that out. But yeah, that.
So the reason for the arrest was the marijuana that you saw him put in his pocket?
Yes, during the course of our investigation, we knocked on the door. The juvenile female that lived there came down and advised that he was in the house. We had been asked to retrieve him by MPD. So we went in to retrieve him. I tried to explain to him, hey man, I get it. You want to hang out with your girlfriend. You're not in trouble. So when I observed a bag of weed on the floor, like torn off corner of a grocery store bag, and it appeared to contain marijuana. In my training experience, typically what's in those is narcotics of some sort. I also observed several beer bottles on the floor, and one of them appeared to have a blunt in it. That would be a marijuana cigar. They use the wrapping from the cigarillos to put the marijuana in. He bent down to pick it up. I told him to give it to me. He stuffed his hands in his pocket and started to back away and take a defensive posture. Deputy Kaysen and I took hold of his arms, instructed him to give us his arms, et cetera.
I don't see that, so I'm gonna let you stop.
Yes, sir.
This right here is actually the traffic stop with the contraband. The camera that you're looking from is from Officer Hancock. There was a light outside the vehicle as well. It's important to note that we have Robert Mary 12747 Frank. That's the vial. Absolutely nothing inside of it. No powder.
Tell you what it looks like. You what? Ask him about it.
So you can see at some point in time, there was something in there, but there is no powder inside. So then I asked Officer Hancock, like, why didn't you just field test it? It's because Rutherford County don't do field tests. So he did interview the man. The man said he didn't know what it was. Him and the other deputy talked about it, decided we don't really have enough to arrest him for it or take it. We can't really determine what it is. So if you can't readily determine that something is illegal contraband, you can't take it. You have to charge somebody. I mean, if you want to fast forward, you can, but they didn't put this bag into the bed of this truck like they're throwing it away. Put it right back where they found it.
No, I'm more concerned, I guess, and you're talking about the valve. I mean, there's residue in there. It could be sent off for testing, which you have to do with almost any narcotic that you don't have a test kit for. So just on suspicion of it being a narcotic, and evidently you thought it was, because you said, I know what this is. Why would you just dispose of it?
I said, I know what this looks like.
I mean, why wouldn't you send it in for testing? You can always charge him later.
One reason is had been told small amounts like that too. It's not worth it.
Why wouldn't you put it back where it was, as opposed to throwing it in the bed of the truck? Because you're kind of responsible for everything in that
Yes,
truck
sir,
now,
I
right?
understand.
And now you just threw it in an open bed of a truck.
Because I came back after talking to him in my car, I had it in my car. Couldn't determine what it was. I really don't think that it was any narcotics.
Still personal property.
Yes. I placed it.
Still you're responsible.
Yes, sir.
But it was also still left with the
In an open bed of a truck. Was it left in the parking lot? Is that where the truck ended up?
I believe his wife ended up coming to get the truck. I do know, as far as, taking care of his personal property, I made sure that gun, it wasn't stolen, it wasn't anything. He was not a felon, prohibited from having a gun. I made sure that I stowed it behind the seats out of sight so that anybody that may have come by and had ill intentions wasn't going to see a gun and get hold of it. Locked his truck, secured it for him.
So y'all didn't give the keys to his wife?
I left with him before his wife arrived. I do not recall whether or not Deputy Smith stayed with the vehicle until the wife got there.
But you didn't tow it?
I did not tow it.
I will say that this is not an instance where he doesn't want to do his job. He arrested him. He did a traffic stop. This person was under arrest. He made a decision that him and his partner both agreed to. His partner has gotten in no trouble whatsoever over it, even though he's the one that found it. I just, if a department has an issue with it, I don't think that anybody here can say, okay, that's their prerogative to do that. But is that worth decertifying somebody for?
I'm not going to argue with you, but I will tell you there's a long list of things in this termination piece, decertification, beyond this traffic stop.
But all I was given to come to you all here today was this traffic stop and the juvenile. I asked for everything. I would have been so prepared for everything that came through. If that's all I'm given.
Commissioner Wright, can we get to the part of the video where the leg sweep happens? For the juvenile?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
While we're waiting for that, I think I don't want to put words in your attorney's mouth, but basically that there's some sort of conspiracy or everybody didn't like you on shift or something like that, or they were out to get you, or whatever however it was that your attorney described that, you know, do you feel that that was the case?
Yes.
Okay, why was that? What happened to sour that relationship that led them to?
I don't know. When I got off of FTO, I started on second shift. Never had a problem. Was well liked by my peers, worked well with everyone. Didn't have any problem. And then when shift bid came up, I decided to go to night shift because that's what I had previously worked at my last agency. I wanted to go back to night shift, and there was multiple deputies on shift that just seemed to have a problem with me. They didn't like me. I didn't fit in. I wasn't one of their cool guys. Brady Green was a corporal at the time. When he got made sergeant, it felt like he went after me hard. There was a point that I even sought employment elsewhere because I just didn't feel welcome anymore at the agency. Felt like I was being pushed out. I thought things were getting better and had decided to stay with the agency. And when I expressed that to Brady Green after he'd become a sergeant, I believe his exact words to me were, "I wish you had fucking left," which was said in front of multiple other peers at the agency.
That's the same supervisor that simply takes out.
And
Do we? That's sorry. They're going upstairs, so try to locate the two.
Yeah. Listen, you're not trouble anything, you dance on one dog.
how about you get that to me?
The bag, why in the bag ever did stop?
Somebody was called on. Go to 8-minute 40-second mark on the same video. This is the confrontation that occurred outside.
It's in the bag.
I put the camera back on. Hey, how does it look? That was when he said he kicked his legs.
Back up a little bit.
That's the excessive force.
That camera was just a little bit.
I got several different camera views. I got a dash cam view and everything else if you want.
That roll just a little bit more. Really get it more.
Yeah. But are you good?
So again, talking to a room full of cops. I just don't see where that was excessive force. I don't understand. And I'm guessing that's why it wasn't given to the DA. To even review what you would do if somebody used excessive force.
Commissioner Ryan, I'm gonna ask about some, what's here in front of us. It says that he received verbal counseling on 9/15/24 for being out of a work zone. Failure to failing to back up a fellow deputy. We're saying how you remember that verbal for that?
I believe they're covering two things in that. I was in zone 4, which is the side of the county north of 24 up to Las Casas. No, I'm sorry, John Bragg Highway. Whenever I would get stuck in zone 4, sometimes the county itself would run out of things to do, no cars moving, anything like that. I like to be proactive. So I would go into the city, usually up to Rutherford Boulevard or even up to Middle Tennessee, to see if I could find vehicles moving, and I would make stops. I made several stops inside the city, which the city of Murfreesboro lies within Rutherford County, and then returned back to zone 4 to patrol out there and make sure everything was still 10-4, and then go check out our extra patrols and things like that. And I was called in and told by Brady Green that making traffic stops in the city was unacceptable, and that I needed to stay in my zone, after which I remained in my zone. Whenever I would work any of the zones, I would stay within the bounds of my zone and back up officers as they needed it in other zones. The incident where he said I didn't back up an officer was an officer who was on a THSO stop for a possible DUI. I did not realize it was down the road from me. I was sitting watching a house where there was no wanted fugitives, felons. I had been tipped off by a second shift officer, a deputy, about this location, and I knew the people that were most likely there. So we were watching for vehicles to move to try and establish PC for a stop to, capture these people, to find these people. When I was informed that, I had missed a fellow officer being on a possible DUI stop and did not back them up, I, adjusted that, self-corrected, and made sure that I stayed aware of what was going on in the county and with my zone partners, et cetera.
Okay.
None of this was ever told to me to be verbal counseling. It was just conversations that were had in passing with.
Understood. What about September 28, 24, violating Fourth Amendment rights of a citizen?
Again, that was his stepson, Sergeant Vincent's stepson, Corporal Williams. We were on a stop. I don't remember my PC for the stop. I think it was light law. I'm not 100% on that. I don't have it in front of me. Stopped the vehicle, made contact with the driver, smelled the odor of marijuana, pulled him out of the vehicle, and I said, "I'm going to pat you down," and I dipped a hand into his pocket. And when I was asked about it by Corporal Williams why I did that, I said, well, there was the odor of marijuana in his vehicle. I was going to search his vehicle, so we pull him out, and then for our safety, I was going to search him. Because yes, but you called it a pat down, and then he advised me of a case law I was not aware of, where it says you cannot search someone's person based on the odor of marijuana in a vehicle, which I looked up, agreed with, and again, self-corrected. Didn't do that again.
All right, well, 10/17/24 for insubordination.
Did it give any more detail?
That's all we have here in front of us is 10/17.
Oh, we were called by MPD and advised that there was a gentleman at his home who had, I believe, violated an order of protection. He had committed a felony. He had domestic charges against him from either his ex-girlfriend or ex-wife. They asked us to go locate him, advised us that they were getting warrants for him, and asked us to go locate him for them. I went there. I could see him through the window lying on the couch, knocked multiple times, attempting to get contact. I was told on the radio It was not numerous times. It was maybe once or twice. I was called and asked what I was doing and advised. Williams told me to go 10-8. I called Corporal Williams and advised Corporal Williams what I had, all the information that I had that was not in the CAD notes, passed it along to him. And he still wanted me to go 10-8, so I went 10-8.
And then finally, it looks like you got a written warning, and we don't have a date period, but a written warning for unsatisfactory performance while foreman is following multiple infractions found committed during traffic stop and arrest. Is that one of the ones you already referenced to? There's not a date or anything associated with that. That's it.
But the only written warning, if you will, that I ever received was over that 10-8 call, and Corporal Williams, that he called it a verbal counseling and made me sign a piece of paper that he had documented the incident on and told me it was not going to go into my file, but that he was going to hang on to it in case they wanted to punish me for anything in the future.
I just kind of want to circle back to the video. So we've seen Deputy Cason's video. Can we see Deputy Hancock's video of just that particular part where he did the leg sweep? And I just want to, so what we have that is alleged against him is that Deputy Hancock could then be viewed on the surveillance sources bracing himself in the patrol car's rush guard and delivering a kick to the restrained juvenile's lower extremities. Deputy Kasem could then be viewed pushing Deputy Hancock back while telling him he had the situation under control. So I didn't really see that fully in that video, so I would just like to see Deputy Hancock's video to see if I could see that.
While we're waiting to pull up that video, Sergeant, can you step back up for a second? Mr. Hancock, yeah. So, I mean, there's been a lot said here, and you know, just give you a chance to respond on behalf of the agency as far as some of the things that you said, specifically that maybe the department was out to get him, or the department was not cooperative in providing documents or any of that.
On the provision of documentation, I'm unaware, so I wasn't the one that received the message or the request for information. So what was received or sent, I can't really speak to on that. What I forwarded into the decertification paperwork with the video and the write-ups, that's what I have. The in question about whether they were out to get him or something like that, I know that he had made comments about that in the past when they started making corrections on his performance. And he was told, from my understanding, from both Brady Green and from Corporal Williams, that we're not out to get him. We don't want him going anywhere. We just want the actions to stop. And that was the reason why they were, once on the radar, you become under a little bit more of a microscope. So things get checked a little bit more frequently than maybe those that are going without any incident. And so I think it can be perceived pretty easily that when someone starts getting corrected multiple times, they may think that someone's out to get them, when in all actuality, they're just trying to make a correction to behavior.
Thank you, Sergeant. I just want to give you a chance to respond. Is the video queued up, Counselor?
Yes, sir. So this is from the dash cam of that car that was directly in front of them while this leg sweep was moving. This is Deputy Cason, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. And there is the leg sweep.
I do see the officer pushing him away.
Actually, he fell. You can see it on another camera. So
There's an uneven curve.
he tripped
When I
over the
stepped
curb.
back, I stood on it wrong and I fell.
So the other officer was trying not to let him fall.
See it again.
So not him. Here it goes. They've asked the guys for a speedy run.
There no audio, this video.
I don't know what's up with it, because it doesn't work here to be audio for the dash cam.
Yeah, the dash cam, I don't think had audio.
I've watched previous dash cam footages for other cases where the dash cam records the interior audio.
Which would make sense. So that's it. He's in the car at this point. So what I'm asking is, things weren't working out in this department, which I worked for Rutherford County, so back in the 80s. I love Rutherford County. If there's an issue with somebody, fine. He doesn't work there anymore. He's gone on to another county. It's completely different to take these things that I just don't see, even in my experience, and be certified. That's pretty heavy-handed for these infractions.
Well, and I'm gonna stop for a second. Number one is I appreciate the sergeant coming in. Rutherford County did exactly what they're supposed to do. When they have somebody who's out under pending termination or they're terminated, they're supposed to decertify. It's up to us to look at the evidence to see if it meets the qualifications. The reason they terminated him, certainly there's a ton of policy issues here, whether he did them or didn't do them, they have justification for what they did. I guess I'm looking at it from a policy standpoint. Rutherford County doesn't want him. They think he's at risk. And I can understand that looking at what they proposed. If he's got another agency that's willing to do that, I can tell you I wouldn't hire him. They're willing to take that risk. I'm going to make a motion to take no action.
Commissioner Ryan, I'm gonna second that motion, because that was gonna be my motion, but I'm also, I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed in Rutherford County, the fact that the DP board presented in some of this other stuff, but it says that they were just verbals. It seemed like it. Those were just verbal, so they weren't significant enough to get written up, so they're pretty much getting all the way down to this of being the reason for letting it go. And I didn't see anything here that makes me think that they definitely need to be decertified. So, second motion.
We have a motion for no action and a second. Do we have any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor of the motion for no action, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Our final case here is the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security, Corey Melton. Mr. Melton was submitted for decertification based on his termination. And if the representative from the Department of Safety would step to the podium, sir, if you would identify yourself by name and what it is that you do, and tell us why the Department of Safety is seeking decertification on Mr. Melton.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I'm Sergeant Jeremy Ballard. I'm with the Office of Professional Accountability with the Department of Safety. Reason we're here today, Mr. Melton was terminated on 12/2/24 for he didn't pass his field training program. During his training in FTO, he had 13 officer safety violations and was just not proficient enough to become a solo trooper. Based on him having a total of 77 days on FTO, which our program, if there's no issues, runs at 50 days. Several safety violations, the inability to navigate basic tasks and require assistance from his FTO with the basic task. That's why we're we're asking today if, just to give you some explanation, I guess, if you wanted on the safety violations in the program, that's a separate form. So that documents any safety issues, and some of those issues were, for example, were suspect, keeping sight on suspects, patting down suspects, and utilizing flashlight during low light conditions. Those are just a few of the things from safety violations.
Is it safe to say that this just boils down to the fact that he did not meet the highway patrol standards for just retaining him as a trooper? Were there any, were there any disciplinary issues? I mean, FTO is a time to find out if somebody should or should not be retained with a particular agency. But other than just the FTO problem, if there,
to my knowledge, there wasn't any issues, legal issue, no doing anything illegal or nothing like that.
is he a lateral?
I don't think he has previous law.
The question I've got, and it's in the documentation, is he's told another trooper that things don't go like he thinks it should go, he loses all ability to function. So that's my question when he gets here. But I think that's more prevalent to the certification of the policies.
Any other questions for the highway patrol representative?
I have two, Mr. Melton, when you get you back.
Sir, if you would just have a seat, and we may need to call you back up and clarify. Mr. Melton, if you would identify yourself, and if your counsel would identify yourself for the record.
Brian Melton.
And I'm Dan Norwood, his counsel. And I could say initially, in 47 years of practicing law, I've appeared before many commissions and governmental bodies, state and local. And I just want to commend this commission for the seriousness with which you are doing your job. I've never appeared before the post commission before. I've heard about it, but I now recognize, having had really the pleasure of watching you at work all morning, what serious work you're doing and how important it is. I never had thought about how important it is of maintaining standards for law enforcement in every county and jurisdiction in this state. So I thank you for your time, and now even missing lunch, you're working through lunch to do this job. Let me just give you a little background so you understand the setting that we're in. Brian Melton had been a nurse for 18 years in a successful career in nursing. Made a decision at this point in his life to make a career change, a dream of becoming a law enforcement officer. And he got hired to work for the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. He passed the academy and went into the 4-phase program for MTO training. Each phase, as you all know, I'm sure, more than I've had to learn it in this process. He succeeded in each first phase, recommended to go to the second phase. Went to the second phase, succeeded, recommended by that officer overseeing him, go to the third phase. Went to the third phase, recommended to go to the fourth phase. And at that point, he was not sent into the fourth phase. He was put into some remedial. And the examples of errors that were given, they're mistakes or errors. One of the others he was given, he didn't put the color of a truck that he had stopped. Another time he called the truck a Chevy, it was a GMC. This is a learning process. And even when he was terminated, they just said, your probation, you didn't make it through your probationary period. So they're under the standards. We would submit there's no disciplinary problem. He did not receive any discipline for anything he did, was diligent working, made it through phase, say the academy, made it phase 1, 2, and 3 successfully. And then they terminated him in December after over 9 months in this position. So we would submit, he's not a lateral move. He's not worked in law enforcement before, but he has a great successful career in nursing. No flaws in his record, got hired and has made it through the first 3 phases and was ready to finish the fourth and didn't finish. He was terminated, unfortunately. And he still desires to be able to work in the stream of law enforcement. And that's why we would ask this commission and this subcommittee to look at this man very seriously and the success he had in the program. There were no disciplinary allegations, as the question was asked. He had no disciplinary actions against him. In the learning process in probation, he's learning the system, how to use the radio, learning how to make an arrest and how to do everything properly. And they weren't satisfied at the end, obviously, when they terminated him, but no disciplinary actions that would justify any action being taken by this subcommittee to recommend any action be taken to revoke his certification so that he can continue his career desire of law enforcement.
So we'd be glad to answer any questions you might have about any of these incidents if you'd like. Commissioner Wright, motion for no action. Commissioner Green, second.
I have a motion for no action. We have a second. Any further discussion from the committee? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor of the motion for no action, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Hearing none, motion carries.
Let's move forward. Thank you for your time.
Any other business for the informal committee by the commissioners? Mr. Bello.
Real quick, just because it was on the agenda today and it was discussed. During the meeting, we had Chief Reese from Henry PD show up. His city administration was watching and emailed during the meeting with the comment. The city recorder, the mayor, and myself watched it and we're fuming about how he lied. He does not have a police clerk in Acatus. She's only the contact person. So he blamed me for not doing his job. Not sure who to tell the truth to, but believe me, he'll hear it when he gets back. My recommendation being that he has to come back next month is probably just to have Kevin maybe review the footage and verify some things. And if there's any deceit, he can just report that back since he has to come back next month anyway.
They could fix it if they fire him. Just say it.
He's still the assistant chief.
Or
Probably still not.
or if that, or.
He's probably back to Henry by now.
What?
Yeah, and that may be something we reach out to them and just, if they don't take some sort of corrective action between now and then, they're more than welcome to appear and come before the commission as well to kind of iron this issue out. So I just wanted to make that you guys aware, being that occurred during our meeting and he was on the agenda. So I didn't want to hang up any longer, but that's all.
Anybody else have any other action before we break for the day and lunch?
I do, your work.
I appreciate y'all. It's a long day, but I like what the last attorney said. I mean, the work that this subcommittee does is incredibly important. The work the commission does is incredibly important. And Kevin Creed wants to speak to us.
Kevin Creed, post investigator. I believe we did one that was no show. I don't know if we did a default on him or not.
Yep,
we did.
Okay, thank you. I was entertaining other people.
Indeed.